Welcome to today's deep dive on a pressing issue: why the middle class is getting crushed financially. Did you know that over the last 4 decades, middle class incomes have barely budged when adjusted for inflation, while costs for essentials like housing, healthcare, and education have skyrocketed? In this video, we'll unpack the complex factors contributing to this economic squeeze. From stagnant wages and exploding debt to shifting economic policies and the unprecedented impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, we'll explore how these elements are combining to create a perfect storm that's putting financial pressure on middle-class families like never before. Understanding these issues is crucial not only for recognizing the challenges many face, but also for driving conversations around potential solutions. So, whether you're feeling the pinch yourself or you're just curious about the economic trends shaping our society, stay tuned as we break it all down. The rising cost of living. One of the most formidable challenges facing the middle class today is the soaring cost of living, which far outpaces income growth. Let's break down the key factors to understand why financial stability seems increasingly out of reach for many families. Housing costs. Real estate prices have exploded over the past 2 decades. For example, in cities like San Francisco and New York, median home prices have nearly tripled since the year 2000. Even in less urban areas, prices have risen sharply, making home ownership a distant dream for many middle-class families. Rents, too, follow this upward trajectory, leaving less disposable income for savings and other expenses. This housing affordability crisis means that more than a third of middle-class families spend over 30% of their income on housing alone, a significant increase from previous generations. Healthcare costs. Healthcare is another area where costs have disproportionately risen. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, the average annual premium for family health coverage has outstripped wage increases and inflation, rising about 55% in the last decade. This squeeze means that an unexpected medical issue can destabilize a seemingly secure financial situation overnight, pushing ordinary families into debt. Education expenses. The cost of education has skyrocketed as well. College tuition fees have doubled, even tripled, at many public universities over the past 20 years, outpacing inflation and family income. This burden isn't just felt by students but also by parents, many of whom dip into their savings or retirement funds to support their children's education, compromising their financial future. The cumulative effect of these rising costs is stark. When the costs of housing, healthcare, and education, all considered fundamental for securing a middle-class lifestyle, are increasing faster than incomes, families find themselves having to do more with less. This relentless financial pressure reduces their ability to save for retirement, invest in their futures, or even afford daily necessities, which contributes significantly to the financial crunch they experience. The middle class is being squeezed not because they manage their money poorly, but because they are caught in an economic system where essential living costs systematically outpace their ability to earn. This mismatch between earnings and expenses is at the heart of why the middle class feels financially crushed today. Stagnant wages. Wage stagnation is a critical issue eroding the financial health of the middle class. Despite productivity increases and economic growth, wages for many middle-class workers have remained stubbornly flat for decades, barely keeping pace with inflation, if at all. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that, adjusted for inflation, today's average hourly wage has only about the same purchasing power it did 40 years ago. This lack of real wage growth means that while workers are producing more, they're not seeing commensurate increases in their paychecks. This stagnation is partly due to broader economic shifts like globalization and technological advancement. Globalization and outsourcing. The expansion of global trade and the outsourcing of jobs to countries with lower labor costs have exerted downward pressure on wages. Industries that traditionally formed the backbone of the middle class, such as manufacturing, have seen jobs move overseas, reducing the demand for domestic workers in these sectors and keeping wages low. Automation. Technological advancements have also reshaped the job market. Automation and artificial intelligence are increasingly taking over tasks that were once the domain of human workers. For example, automated checkouts and customer service bots have replaced many retail and customer service positions, leading to job displacements and forcing workers into lower-paying jobs without significant prospects for wage growth. These factors combine to create a challenging environment for wage growth. Even in industries that have resisted automation and outsourcing, the surplus of available labor, coupled with weak union power, has kept wages from rising significantly. The result is that many middle-class workers find themselves in a precarious financial position, with their incomes not keeping up with the cost of living. This stagnation not only limits individual financial growth and security, but also impacts the broader economy. When middle-class purchasing power stagnates, so does the overall economic demand, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. Increased debt. As wages stagnate and costs rise, many middle-class families find themselves increasingly reliant on debt to manage everyday expenses. This growing debt burden, particularly from credit cards and student loans, is reshaping the financial landscape for many Americans, leading to significant stress and instability. Consumer debt. Credit card debt has become a central component of middle-class financial management. The Federal Reserve reports that in recent years, total U.S. credit card debt reached all-time highs, surpassing $1 trillion. This increase is not merely due to irresponsible spending, but rather as a necessary tool for covering basic living costs, such as groceries, medical bills, and other essentials, especially when an unexpected financial emergency occurs. The high interest rates associated with credit card debt compound the problem, making repayment difficult and often leading to a vicious cycle of debt accumulation. Student loan debt. Perhaps the most striking example of increased debt burden is seen in student loans. According to the Federal Reserve, the total U.S. student loan debt exceeds $1.5 trillion, affecting over 44 million borrowers who are predominantly from middle-class backgrounds. The average student loan debt for recent college graduates is around $30,000, a substantial financial burden that impacts individuals' ability to save, invest, and make significant life purchases like homes or cars. The long-term financial effects are profound, delaying or outright preventing wealth accumulation that was once a hallmark of middle-class financial stability. These debt trends reveal troubling implications for day-to-day financial management among middle-class families. As debt levels rise, more of their income is diverted away from savings and investment towards debt repayment, which exacerbates financial vulnerability and limits economic mobility. The stress associated with high debt levels can also have psychological and physical health repercussions, underscoring the multifaceted impact of this financial strain on middle-class Americans. Economic policies and inequality. Economic policies, particularly those related to taxation and wealth distribution, play a significant role in shaping the financial landscape for the middle class. These policies can either widen or narrow the economic divide, with recent trends unfortunately tending towards the former, exacerbating wealth inequality and further destabilizing middle-class financial security. Tax policies. Tax policies have often been critiqued for favoring the wealthy at the expense of the middle class. For instance, significant tax cuts for high earners and corporations are said to stimulate investment and job creation, a principle known as trickle-down economics. However, evidence suggests that these benefits often fail to reach the middle class, whose tax relief is generally less substantial. This discrepancy can lead to a higher relative tax burden on middle-income earners compared to wealthier individuals when considering total income and wealth. Wealth inequality. The concentration of wealth at the top has escalated dramatically in recent decades. Data from the Federal Reserve and various economic research institutes show that the top 1% of wealth holders now own a disproportionately large share of the nation's wealth. This concentration means less economic power for the middle class, as wealth inequality limits access to quality education, home ownership opportunities, and even capital to start businesses, all key components of financial stability and upward mobility. The impact of these economic measures is profound. Wealth inequality not only hampers the middle class's ability to prosper, but also stunts overall economic growth. When the middle class shrinks, consumer spending decreases because fewer families can afford discretionary spending. This reduced spending leads to slower economic growth, fewer job opportunities, and lower income gains across the board, reinforcing the cycle of inequality. Thus, current economic policies and the growing gap between the rich and the rest can severely restrict the middle class's financial stability and social mobility, creating a self-perpetuating loop of economic challenges. For a robust middle class and a healthy economy, reforms in tax policy and efforts to address wealth inequality are essential. The impact of COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on the global economy, with the middle class bearing a significant brunt of the downturn. The economic implications have been severe, with job losses, reduced work hours, and an exacerbated housing crisis dramatically altering the financial landscape for middle-class families. Job losses and reduced work hours. The pandemic triggered one of the most substantial employment disruptions in recent history. Millions of middle-class workers in sectors like retail, hospitality, and services were furloughed or laid off as businesses closed or scaled back due to lockdown measures. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. unemployment rate soared to a historic high of nearly 15% in April 2020, with subsequent waves of COVID-19 leading to further economic instability. Even those who retained their jobs often faced reduced hours and wages, severely impacting their income stability. Housing crisis. Concurrently, the housing market experienced significant turmoil. While some areas saw a surge in prices due to increased demand and low interest rates, many middle-class homeowners and renters found themselves in precarious positions. Eviction moratoriums provided temporary relief, but rents continued to accrue, leading to a looming crisis as these protections expired. For homeowners, mortgage forbearance programs delayed payments, but the resumption has been a cause for concern among those still not financially recovered. The pandemic also highlighted and widened existing economic inequalities, affecting lower middle class and minority groups disproportionately. These groups were more likely to hold jobs that couldn't transition to remote work, increasing their risk of financial instability. Furthermore, the health crisis itself and the associated costs of treatment compounded financial vulnerabilities for families already on the edge. COVID-19 has not just been a health crisis, but a profound economic one, particularly for the middle class. The pandemic's lingering effects continue to threaten the economic stability of middle-class families, making recovery a formidable challenge without targeted economic policies and support measures. If you relate to these challenges or have insights to share, please comment below. Your experiences enrich our discussion. Don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analysis and to join our community seeking solutions. As we look ahead, one critical question remains. What steps can we take to ensure the future stability and prosperity of the middle class? Let's start that conversation now.